In this video, I'm going to show you a quick way that we can use Monkey Tools to build multiple basic measures all at once. Now, I've got a data model here. You can see it's got no measures anywhere, not on the fact tables or budgeted sales or on my measures table. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back down into Excel, and we'll notice that we have a pivot table sitting right here. Now, let me just move this across so we have a little bit more room to see what's going on. And now I'm going to open the Measure Monkeys multiple explicit measures. And this is going to pull up a dialog that looks like this. Now, the first thing that's going to happen, there are a few different options you can play around with in here, but the main thing is we look through the entire model looking for linked fact tables. So these are tables that only have stars around them in your model. So we believe those are probably the fields that you're going to want to aggregate. If you need to find some other pieces in here, you can definitely do that. We don't recommend you use dimensions, but you could pull those in if you need to. Now, you'll also notice that I'm going to store my measures by default on my measures table. If I don't have a measures table at this point, I can create one right here. And there's a few different options down here that you may find useful. We prefer to ignore columns used on foreign keys. We also prefer to default our numbers to currency formats because I'm an accountant, is generally the way that I deal with things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click Next, and it'll take us into this dialog. Now, what you can see is that it's actually enumerated every fact table inside the model. We have budgets and we have sales. There's only two in this model. And we have an amount column on each. You can also see that we have a couple of colorful little fields here for declaring our measure names. When you see this, what it means is the blue is the first conflict and the red are subsequent conflicts. So what I need to do is I need to rename these. So I'm just going to go and call this one budget dollars, and you can see there's no conflicts anymore, so those colors disappear. We've got our format is chosen as a currency. It's going with a 1, 2, 3, 4 with no decimal places. These are just some of the default formats we provide with a currency indicator and no decimal places, currency indicator 2 decimal places, etc. So you get a little bit of a sneak peek here as to what those formats might look like. And you can choose to store it on, in this case, measures table by default. If we didn't have a measures table by default, it would actually store it on the host table of budgets in this case. Now I'm going to go and just mark this one up over here too. We're going to call this one sales dollars. And I want you to be aware here that you're not limited to just these aggregations. If I wanted to add another one, for example, I could say add another aggregation. And you can see that I could choose my individual columns. So maybe if I wanted to know a distinct count of the categories, I could grab that. It says this is text-based. So we're going to allow you to do a count or a distinct or a first item. So we'll just go with a distinct count of category. We'll say, well, let's call it unique items. That's a good enough name. We're going to call that a whole number. In addition, I'm going to add another aggregation here. And I want you to be aware that we have one more item in this. We list all of your column names, amount, category, and date. The very last item will actually be your table name. Notice it's sales. This is sales. The reason we have this is because we can actually have the only aggregation that's available for a table in a basic measure is count rows. And this is something that I can use to make my transactions count for what I've got going on. So at this point, we've now configured this to work with 4 different measures that are all basic aggregations, and it's ready to go. If I wanted to add another table, I can do that here. So I can add dimension tables or other tables that maybe aren't in the list. So I've got the ability to build, more things should I need to. I'm now going to hit create, and you're going to see it goes through and it adds all these things to the chosen table. And if I now go and say close, you'll notice that my pivot table has not changed. And this is a design decision that we made. If you're making multiple different measures, we don't know that you necessarily want to add all of them to a pivot table, so we don't add any of them. But you'll notice now that all of my measures have been created here. So I can go and say, let's add our transactions and our unique items. We've only got one in this case. That's interesting for each one. We've got a sales dollars and we've got our budget dollars. And there we go. Everything works in this case. And this makes sense because we're actually looking at our unique items on a product by product basis, which is why there's only one. But in that case, everything works nicely. If I were to go now and say, let's go pivot table design, let's go add some subtotals at the bottom of the group. we should see here that our unique items are showing 2, which makes sense because we have both beer and wine under our beverages. So these measures are all working nicely. They're nice explicit measures with default formats, and this is a really, really rapid way to go through and build a host of measures very quickly for your basic aggregations. Things that you might want to use in more complicated calculate statements and things like that in future. So a nice quick tool to get you off and running very quickly. That is our multi-measure monkey. Thanks for watching this episode of Using Monkey Tools. To get your own monkey, visit our website at monkeytools.ca. Or if you subscribe to Skillwave's Self-Service Business Intelligence Academy, you'll get a free annual pro license included with your subscription. And remember, Monkey Tools was developed to support better Excel and Power BI solutions. If you want to learn how to really master these tools, you should definitely check out our full course catalog at skillwave.training.